and it's about a bigger purpose. You will agree that there are a lot of topics that are worthwhile discussing during the panel debate. But first, I would like to hand over the mic to our first live keynote of today. She not only is a highly skilled consultant, but she also wrote a book about hybrid working. And today she'll share 7 great ideas with us to cope with this new way of working. And she'll explain also how the Holy Trinity plays an important role in it. May I have your attention, please, for Isabel de Klerk.
Hybrid ways of working. Isn't that the latest hype and management bullshit? A glorification of digital tools that give us a terrible headache at the end of the day. A normalization of what is, just come on, an abnormal situation. Working from home in your pajamas, just come on. You know what Elon Musk said just 2 weeks ago. We should not allow more inequalities between factory workers and other people. My name is Isabel de Klerk. And in spring last year, I have written this book, Hybrid Work, a Manifesto. And you might have noticed that I do not agree with the cliches I have just described. The essence of hybrid work is not working from home. The essence of hybrid work is a quest. It is a quest for work that works, a quest for good work, a quest for the development of sustainable work habits. And in all of this, connection is key. Connection with ourselves, connection with the team, connection with the organization, and connection with our clients. And this quest, this beautiful quest, applies to all of us, not just to office workers, but also to people working in shifts and people working on tugboats. And this connection, this sustainable, healthy, long-lasting connection will guarantee that your people will become like trees, you know, with deep roots firmly anchored into the ground. It will make them more resilient, more flexible. So my message to you is, forget about hybrid. It's about sustainability. It's about connection. And in this keynote of 15 minutes, I would like to give you 7 suggestions, 7 ideas to make this connection a success. Number 1 to 5 apply to all of us, and number 6 and 7 mostly apply to office workers. So let's start with number 1, start with why. Most organizations implementing hybrid ways of working, they narrow down this beautiful and rich topic to just working from home. And what they do is they set up a working from home policy with a set of strict rules to be followed, and their work is done. What is lacking in most organizations is the explanation why they are doing so. I have found 2 examples of organizations that do explain the why. There is this example in Belgium and another example in the Netherlands. The example in Belgium, DELA, states explicitly that hybrid work is not an end in itself. Hybrid work is just a means to an end. And the end is installing a human and result-oriented organization based upon trust and an adult work relationship, emphasizing that well-being and a focus on output can go hand in hand. What a beautiful message. Then about the example in the Netherlands. At the Rabobank, in fact, they give similar messages, but they add some things. They say it's about saving the planet, the climate, and it's also about sustainable employability, emphasizing that lifelong learning is something very important. What these 2 examples show us very clearly is that hybrid ways of working is a kind of externalization of values of the company. It's an externalization of positive values, where work and lifelong learning are seen as something good, as something positive. So please start with why and create this positive and compelling vision of the future based upon positive values, because this will create a strong connection, a deep connection between your employees and your organization. Suggestion number 2. This is Thomas Bone Pickens, a rich American industrialist who died in 2019. When journalists ask him for the reason of his success, he always gives the same answer, and the answer is, when you're chasing elephants, don't get distracted chasing rabbits. Well, the office workers amongst us, they know very well what these rabbits are. These are the so-called M&Ms, well, not the candy, but meetings and mails. They give you and me a false feeling of productivity. The development of sustainable work habits does not start with the question who is allowed to work from home and who is not and how many days. The development of sustainable working habits starts with the identification of our elephant tasks, our high-value activities, those activities with which we create a lot of value for our customers. And this is a super interesting question for all of us, because if we identify these elephant tasks and if we are able to work on them during the day, then we can end our working days with a feeling of satisfaction. And this feeling of satisfaction leads to a healthy relationship between people and their work. So, yeah, hybrid ways of working starts with a heightened consciousness on how we use our time and energy. And so for me, question number 3, where, it is just the 3rd question. So stop being busy and start creating value, so chase elephants. That was suggestion number 2. Suggestion number 3. A lot of old-fashioned, hierarchical, command and control managers, they want people to return to the office so that people can meet at the coffee machine or at the water cooler. Because it is during these informal moments that innovation happens. And it is during these magic water cooler moments that people come up with their best ideas. This story is absolutely bullshit. There is no scientific evidence of a link between the water cooler and innovation. Because you know who you meet at the water cooler or at the coffee machine. It's always the same people. If you want your employees to be truly innovative, then you have to encourage them to look outside. To look outside, so it means to talk with people from other departments of your organization. I have found a beautiful example at Umicore. Since 10 years already, they organize what they call the Lotto Lunch. It means that every 3 months, they match people together, they put people together for a lunch, and those people, they do not know each other, so that they can exchange their expertise and their knowledge. At the start, they only did it in a physical way in Germany, and now, well, since March 2020, they also do it in a digital way, like matching Indian and German engineers. I really like this example, because in this case, it's the organization that sets up initiatives in a very structured way in order to stimulate lifelong learning, in order to stimulate a great connection between employees across hierarchical, across geographical boundaries. They install a healthy connection between employees and the organization. And it is my conviction that lifelong learning is something good. Lifelong learning contributes to the development of a healthy relationship between people and their work. This was suggestion number 3. Do not linger at the coffee machine. And now number 4. Embrace the magic of ABC. I proudly present you DC and Ryan, 2 old American professors of psychology. Old indeed, but still passionate about their domain of expertise. And their domain of expertise is the answer to the question, what makes people flourish? What makes sure that people have this feeling of well-being and that they perform at their best? Well, already in the 70s, DC and Ryan have found an answer to this question. And the answer is people flourish when their 3 basic psychological needs are met. It means that if at work these 3 psychological needs are met, that people are in true connection with their work, with the team, with your organization, and with their clients. So let's talk about these 3 basic psychological needs, A, B, C. I start with B, the sense of belonging. My need for the sense of belonging is met when I feel cared for, when I feel seen, when I feel heard. But the sense of belonging is not just about, getting things, receiving things. It's also about giving things. It means I contribute to the team. I'm a part of the puzzle and my contribution matters. So the sense of belonging is about getting things and about giving things. What about C, the need for competence? My need for competence is met at work when I feel competent in my work. It means that I get tasks that are not too easy and not too difficult, and when there are possibilities of growth, of learning, and of development. And what about A, autonomous motivation? My need for autonomous motivation is met at work when my tasks are either fun, either they are not fun, but they are meaningful. So it means that I am truly motivated. My motivation comes from within, it comes from myself. I'm not doing things just to meet the standards of others or to avoid punishment. And so DC and Ryan, they talk about the perceived locus of causality is me, myself, and I. In other words, if these 3 basic psychological needs are met at work, people feel in true connection with themselves, with their work, with your organization, and with their clients. So please do embrace the magic of ABC. And people will feel like these trees with deep roots firmly anchored into the ground. Idea number 5. You might know Tinder, the dating app, matching people. There is like a consultancy company called Blessing White that discovered the magic of the Tinder match, or the magic of the match, long before Tinder was invented. Blessing and White, they do not talk about the match between people, but they talk about the match between people and an organization. And they say that people are at their best when there is a match between the autonomous motivation of individuals and the strategic objectives of the organization, when there is a match between the values of the individual and the values of the organization. People who experience this major Tinder match, they flourish in your organization. They are flexible, they are resilient. So in other words, it is up to you, leaders, to encourage people to reflect upon their objectives, upon their autonomous motivation. It is up to you, leaders, to be very explicit about your strategic objectives, to be very explicit about your values. And then now number 6. And number 6 mostly applies to office workers. Hybrid ways of working is often referred to as working anytime, any place. So it means there's more flexibility in time and in place. I have to say that I, as an office worker, I do like the fact that there is more flexibility in place. But I also think that working from home should not be mandatory. Just imagine that you live in a small apartment with a lot of yelling and noisy and young children. Working from home should not become a new dogma. And then what about this flexibility in time, working anytime? I have to say that I really have a problem with the concept of working anytime, because it seems to suggest that we could be working like all day long. It seems to suggest endlessly stretched out work days. And in fact, this is exactly what recent research by Microsoft shows. Our average workday span has increased by 13%. And they also have found what they call a third peak of productivity at 10 or 11 o'clock in the evening, just before people go to sleep. And of course, this situation is not a sustainable one. This situation is not a healthy one. So what I like to say to people is, what guarantees creativity, what guarantees productivity, is not endless flexibility. In fact, it's the opposite. It's more about recurring work patterns. It's more about routine. It's more about discipline. It's about strict barriers between work and life. So when you're on, and when you're off, you are off. And then now, suggestion number 7. Suggestion number 7, I have to say, is my favorite one. Downgrade constant availability. And also this one mostly applies to office workers. Do you know how many times per day you grab your mobile phone? It seems to be more than 100 times a day. I think it is simply a disgrace, but it seems as if we have lost our ability to focus and to monotask. By the way, did you know that research shows that being constantly interrupted has a more negative effect on your IQ than smoking cannabis? It seems we are all stoned at work because we are constantly interrupted by ping-pong communication. So what we need to have good work is uninterrupted work. What we need is more slow communication. For example, thinking about something, putting it into a OneNote, analyzing numbers in an Excel sheet, or what do you think about pen and paper? What we also need is focus time, like 1 or 2 hours a day, where we are not available for colleagues, where we are not available for clients, where we can focus on our important work, chasing elephants, for example. So this was idea number 7. And now we have come at the end of my keynote, and you can see here again the 7 suggestions. And I hope that you want to remember like these 3 messages. First of all, just forget about hybrid. It's more about sustainability. It's more about connection. The connection with ourselves, with the team, with the organization, and with our clients. And this connection, this deep and true connection, not that one at the coffee machine, but it ensures resilience, it ensures flexibility, and it allows that your people will become like this tree, with deep roots firmly anchored into the ground.